Subscribe, please click the like button, share and subscribe. It's free.
Julius Malema, leader of the EFF, thank you so much for making time for us. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off with something that a lot of people, and I'll say including myself, have just been wondering about. How have you been since Floyd Shivambu left? Because I think it's one thing to lose a comrade, but it's another to actually lose someone you had considered a brother. And I wonder if that kind of relationship still exists. But I'll start there. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. The leadership of the EFF remains intact. Although his departure was painful, but I got some sense of relief. I don't know why. It was as if I've put down some heavy load. So it's not always that bad things will always produce bad results. Perhaps at times they do produce very good results. So we're fine. We're rocking.
You're rocking. Is that as the EFF? What about you and him? Is there an opportunity?
No. I don't have anything to do with him.
No friendship anymore?
No. I don't. What brought us together was a common purpose. We met in the trenches. We didn't meet in a club. We didn't meet at church. We didn't fall into love with each other at the university in the same class. What brought us together was sharing the common agenda for the revolution. And once we start seeing things together, differently, what brought together no longer exists, and there's no need for me to be having any kind of relationship.
Yeah. One of the things that I think a lot of people saw this when you addressed the press briefing with him when he was announcing that he's leaving. And a lot of people said, you can just see how sad Julius is. We've never really seen him like that. And you guys were so collegial in the way you addressed this matter. You were very professional. You were very mature in how you handled it. And then a few days later, you addressed the ground forces and I felt you were going hard on him, where you said you have been betrayed. What happened between that moment and the time when you addressed the ground forces? Because it seems like something happened, because then the messaging changed.
No. The messaging remained the same. There's a different posture you take when you are in a press conference, like when I'm talking to you now. And when I go to speak in a rally or in a political talk cannot be like some boring history lecture in a lecture room. My responsibility, amongst other things, is to agitate and to instill confidence on the ground forces and say to them, we're still rocking the boat, we're in charge, let's move forward. So there should be a difference between the press conference and the ground forces event, but there's nothing that really is different from what we said. I said to you then, and I might have said it in an emphatic manner at the ground forces rally. I said to you at the press conference that I wouldn't have expected that from a brother. And once I said that, a word for that is betrayal. So if whether I put it in that way or this way, it's the same. But it's water under the bridge now. Nothing of us depend on his existence. No. We are doing much better now without him.
Yeah. One of the things you said at the press briefing was that this is not allowed even in the EFF constitution, but if he decides that he wants to come back to the EFF, you are going to make an exception for him. Is that offer still on the table?
That was a demonstration of me not having anything against him as a person. But the EFF has got a constitution. It has got its own membership. It has heard what I said, and it will decide at that moment if that moment presents itself. But I was simply saying, I've got nothing against this guy. I've not done anything to this guy. And even if he calls on me tomorrow, I'll show up, because I will not have some hangovers but this guy, when he left, this is what happened. No. And that's what I was saying. But we're all governed by the constitution of the EFF, which says if you leave the EFF, you are not allowed to come back. And the leadership of the EFF had a CCT meeting. One after another, they said to me, "Hey, my guy, we heard you, but not here."
So they said,
no, not here. You can forgive each other there, but not here. The constitution of this organization applies. And I ought to respect that because I've expressed my views, and the leadership said, hell no.
Are you not concerned about how that comes across? Because from what you're saying, this is a decision that you took unilaterally, right? About making an exception even though the constitution that doesn't allow, without speaking to the leadership. Do you not think you should have at least discussed it with the leadership and said, hey guys, this guy wants to leave, but because he is, as you've said before, the brainchild of this organization, what do you guys think of this? Because you are a leadership collective. I would imagine Julius Malema himself can't just make exceptions about the constitution of the EFF.
Well, a person leaves a day or a night before. We meet, work out the strategy on how we're going to navigate this with him. And the following day, we handle it, professionally in a very good manner, the way you are saying. For the first time, I hear you speaking so well about EFF that you did something professional and in an acceptable manner. So, in between that, there is no time for consultation of the highest decision-making body in between the conferences. I'm its president. I should make pronouncement in between because leadership must be provided. But when that leadership meets, it has to rectify what I said. It's the same as the CCT, the Central Command Team. It will take a decision and then goes to a National People's Assembly in December. And then we arrive there, they say, no, that decision was wrong. This is what the leadership should do going forward or should have done. And therefore, we're not accepting this resolution. So we've got our bosses, as it were. But it doesn't mean that I'm confronted with a challenge now and I have to protect this organization, which I did to the best of my ability. And that's why it's still standing today.
Yeah. I have to say, as we wrap up on Floyd, one of the things that particularly surprised me about your posture when you're addressing the ground forces is when you told them to go and check who owns Channel 405 and what relations they've had with, people like Floyd Shivambu, people that have left. And I just thought, that is so below the belt. And I know you've said in the past that when we are in politics, we mustn't be personal. So don't involve my family. Don't involve my personal relationships. Attack me as a politician. And I just felt, and I could be wrong, I'm interested to hear your view here, if you think you addressed and dealt with that matter correctly, because you basically exposed him about his past relations with someone who owns Channel 405. Do you think that was the right way to deal with it, especially after you guys agreed that they're not going to be personal attacks?
Well, I'm happy you know who owns 405. I don't know. I'm happy you know personal relations of people. I don't know. Do not involve me in the bedrooms that have nothing to do with me. I've never said that. And let me reassure, I'm not a coward. If I wanted to say something, I will say it. So I didn't say that. So I'm not responsible for your interpretation. I'm responsible for what I say. And I did not say that. I don't know who owns 405. Go and check the ownership of the 405. Check its posture against the EFF. The same as 403. It has been under scrutiny now as to who owns it and why is it a propaganda machinery for the GNU. Now we're going to be told, no, you are below belt because there is a person who owns a 403 and he had a relationship with Steinhazen in the municipality of eThekwini. I don't know that. But I'm just saying you check its ownership, then you check what is the agenda driven by this station. And that will tell you why the posture they've taken. I mean, we are not shocked by the SABC. I mean, SABC has been very hard on us and pro the other formations, as long as it's not EFF, especially with the question that you are asking me now about this guy who have left the EFF. If you check the relationship of some of the board members of the SABC and look at the SABC's posture, then you will understand why the SABC is taking, the posture is taking. So you ought to know every existing material evidence that will give you direction of where we're going. So, and we've always spoken, even in his presence, about the ownership of 4-5. And we've always doubted that that which they say owns 4-5 is actually not true. So I don't know, at least today we are getting some answer from you about that.
So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to clarify that, because that's at least in my interpretation, which is why I wanted you to at least explain it. Because when you said go check who owns 405 and the relations they've had with the people who have passed, but I'll take your explanation. Do you still expect people to leave and follow Floyd? Because you said that was you said you must expect that fighters, that some people are going to leave and follow him. Do you still think there's some?
Yeah, they're there, and we're looking at them, and they think that we don't know. There comes a season in politics where these things happen, and then you must not be overwhelmed by a season. It's like those people who spend all their money on Christmas Day because it's a festive season. So there's that kind of season which is taking place now. We ought to hold tight and make sure that we remain unshaken. They're there. It doesn't matter what they say from their mouth. It doesn't matter what song they sing. All we know factually is that these people have engaged in a double parking. So the constitution of the EFF says, speak good and defend the organization, both in private and in public. And then you go speak very bad about the organization in private, and then plot its leadership. You know, what is holding some of them is the coming NPA, that they should blackmail us into electing them. And if we don't, they're going to leave. But they are long gone and will not be hurt by that. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter. So you can say this, but in actual fact, you're engaged in shenanigans that seeks to undermine the unity of organization. And go and praise a leader of another party in an internal meeting of the EFF and still believe that those comrades and fighters will view you as one of their own.
Yeah.
So sometimes it helps the unity and the image of the organization not to engage in the expulsion of people. You just allow them to self-destruct. And that way you gain an upper hand. That nobody didn't expel them. They left on their own. Yeah, which they will do.
Yeah, and that brings me then into the People's Assembly, because you're mentioning something about the threat that some of them are making, that maybe if they don't get elected, then they're going to somehow use some influences to try and bargain for positions. Are you expecting the People's Assembly in December to be a bruising contest for the EFF?
Not where I'm in charge. I'm in charge now. And I'm going to make sure that I defend the unity of this organization and its existence. I do not care of any critique that will come because it's disappointed from EFF that emerges united in Nazareth. EFF is not going to die in Nazareth. We're going to a conference, we're going to account, we're going to elect leadership. We are one of the few organizations that do that. And even when we try to protect that internal democratic process, we're still called dictators. But people say they will never go to conference. People say, yeah, they appoint leaders. No one tells them anything. They get praised everywhere. EFF is the only one that gets told, no, you can't do this. We're going to do what we think it is in the interest of the EFF, and we don't care who says what. We care about the branches of the EFF now. Yes, this is the period where we must defend our movement and not listen to our detractors. We have to defend the EFF. And the bad thing with the constitution of the EFF, and like any other constitution, it doesn't deal with the period of infiltration. What happens when the organization faces infiltration? The organization has got its own president. And the good thing with our president is that he's a founder of this organization. And where there is a absence of constitutional provision on how to deal with this, the president must intervene, and the president will intervene.
Yeah. What is your relationship now with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi? I'm sure you've seen the suggestions people have been making since you addressed the ground forces, when you said some of the leaders are quiet, and some of their partners have liked tweets, and you know about the Twitter detectives who've gone and found some of the tweets that were liked by the partner of Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Were you referring to him when you were making that statement, and what's your current relationship with him now?
Our relationship has always been an organizational and political relationship, and it remains like that. And I've not seen anything untoward, because even in Parliament, where we meet the most, we're working together. We meet almost every Monday, especially now with the preparations of the NPA. He's there, he's given tasks, he executes those tasks to the best of his ability. Nothing has suggested that there should be some sour relations between me and Dr. Ndlozi. But you ought to be aware that when we speak in the political event, people will always try to align the messaging with certain individuals. So meaning they will try to give it a face, even if there is no face, and then try to drive a wedge. And where you find the weak leadership, they go separate ways. But they are leaders who in the EFF, and they know themselves, and for the sake of the unity of our organization, we shouldn't be speaking about their names, who have kept quiet.
Including
and have
Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. I mean, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has not said anything about Floyd since he left, between Floyd leaving and you addressing the ground forces.
He has said something, unless you're saying he didn't say it to you, the media people. If you asked him, if anyone asked him, I've never heard him being asked about that.
On Twitter?
But
because you said there are certain leaders who are busy tweeting, who always tweet, but now they're quiet.
It's his choice. I mean, I'm happy you are able to see that he has not tweeted. I have not been checking that. So all I'm saying is that he has expressed himself about this matter. To me, he has expressed himself internally in the organization. And he's writing his own history. Everybody writes his own history.
But you said to me earlier on that the EFF expects its leadership to defend this organization, not just internally, but publicly as well. He hasn't done that.
He has done that.
Publicly?
He has done that. He has been at the occasions where the organization ought to be defended, and he defended the organization.
Even on the issue of Floyd?
Well, I've not heard him say anything about the issue of Floyd, but the Constitution does not say on Floyd, defend the EFF internally and externally. It says the organization has to be defended both in private and in public. So if he has chosen not to say anything on Floyd, it doesn't mean he has not defended the organization. Where he gets an opportunity, which he does very well in Parliament, he defends the integrity and the image of the EFF.
Yeah. The Mail and Guardian reported earlier this month that there are some EFF provincial leaders that are calling for the party's constitutional change to abolish the deputy positions. Is that something that you think can work well in the organization?
Well, that suggestion came to me, but I've never been in an organization where there's no deputy president. So I'm very reluctant to do or agree with things that I don't know. So some people were saying to me, we need to establish the union, trade union, but we can't establish two organizations at the same time, because now I've never been in a union. So if there are comrades who are going to establish a union, and we can see it's a genuine union, it's not someone trying to resolve this issue of unemployment by forming a union, we'll support that. I've not listened to a real political persuasion as to why we should abolish the issue of deputy president, because you are irritated by what Floyd did. that is not objective. So you can't make rules based on Floyd for future leaders of the EFF. We have not done anything wrong to the EFF. So you can be angry now with Floyd and be angry with whatever that he was occupying, and then say, no, he must go with everything. No. It's what irritated you now, but it can be a long-term solution. What happens if Julius Malema is unable to discharge this responsibility tomorrow? It means we're going to kill each other on that evening, because there is no one who the Constitution then immediately mandate that where the president is incapable of discharging his responsibilities, you have to come in. Yeah. So that creates a room for serious contestation and potential split in the organization if the Constitution does not resolve what needs to happen going into the future.
Yeah.
Deputy president is not succession. Being deputy president does not mean you're going to be president. Being deputy secretary general does not mean you're going to be secretary general. So you deputize in the absence of those you are deputizing. You are not even an assistant. You're not an assistant president. You are a deputy.
You've got your own responsibilities. And
you get assigned certain things. You don't interfere with what your principal is responsible for.
Yeah. And in terms of succession in the organization, and I know names are being bandied around now. Some people feel Mbuyiseni Ndlozi should contest Secretary General, the position of Deputy President. What confidence do you have in the current leadership and the possibility that they may return, including yourself as it is? Are you more open to, as a Democratic Party, obviously you allow anybody to contest positions. I just want to get your thoughts on the current leadership and the possibility of them returning, being re-elected, and also some of the names that are being mentioned to occupy the position of leadership in the EFF.
I think they all qualify. If it's the names that you have given to me now, the current leadership of the EFF is well capable. Our Secretary General is at the center of what we're going through now as an organization in defense of the EFF. He has been steering the ship. He has been ensuring that these branch meetings, regional meetings, and eventually provincial meetings take place in an orderly and disciplined manner, and they do take place that the administration of it is proper. And where he has been called upon to defend our organization, he has never been ashamed, not for a day, for associating with us. So why would I have a problem with the Secretary General of the EFF? They can remove him if they want to, but if they come to ask me, I will express my view, that I don't agree with that view. And tribalists work in different ways. The fact that now the threat comes from MK, they now want to assume that every Zulu is a threat, and that includes our Secretary General, who has not for a single moment, not for a day, demonstrate that he belongs to a certain tribe or push ethnic politics or tribalistic politics. At times we even forget and speak to each other in our home tongue. And remember later that, no man, this comrade, you can see that he's lost. Like, this comrade Ghana, he doesn't know this language. And then he does the same because we don't see tribe amongst ourselves. And therefore, Marshall is not going to be destroyed on the basis that there is a party that comes from or is strong. No, it comes from there anyway. It comes from KZN. And therefore, because Marshall is from KZN, he must be killed. I must also be killed. Marshall is even in a much better position. This party that you are saying comes from KZN, got 45% in KZN. I come from a province where the ANC got 73%. So if we're using that, I must be the first one to be shot down before you go to Marshall.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you're expressing your view about the Secretary General position. What about the Deputy President? position.
There's no deputy president. He left.
Yeah.
So I've got nothing to do with
Free
that.
for all.
So it has always been like the position of the president. But you know, Clement, you guys make a terrible mistake, and that's what you don't critique with the rest of these people, and then you do that with us. In the EFF, if you talk succession, I'm going to finish reading my political report and organizational report, treasurer's report. We are done. Then electoral commission comes and say, guys, thank you for your service for the past 5 years. You can now step down. We get removed from the stage to go and sit with delegates there. In between that period and the nomination, there is no president of the EFF.
Ordinary members only.
We're just ordinary members there. Can you say that about Mapantiti? Can you say that about Action SA? Can you say that about the rest of these people?
Action SA hasn't had a conference yet.
And MK says, hey, don't even try those things here. But they are the darlings of everyone. Malema is going to be told, you must now step down so that nominations can take place. That weight, none of these parties have ever had. Yet, they are not dictators. They are not called all sorts of names, which we accept because we represent a direct opposite agenda of what the establishment is actually looking for.
Yeah, and I won't speak for the rest of the media, but for this show, we did criticize. In fact, my comment a week ago was about parties that are not even planning to have elect, and I referenced the EFF as the best example because you were founded in 2013, 2014 already. You had an elective conference. You indicated that branches that didn't get 10% of the vote share won't be allowed to participate at the conference. Just please expand more on that.
So when you go to a conference, you say a branch in good standing will be 100 members who have paid up their membership fee, who are registered voters, and that branch should go and elect the branch leadership if it doesn't have a branch leadership. If it does have a branch leadership, then it will nominate a delegate. So it's a criteria which it is left to us as the leadership of the EFF. So you look at those branches that have 100, BGAs, BPAs, and then you say one delegate, and then you use a zebra approach, and you say, can't we come up with a criteria where we reward hardworking? So then we say, okay, you are a branch of the EFF, it's okay, but you don't qualify to go to a conference. Because a requirement of a branch, for you to be recognized as a branch, is not that you must go to a conference. No, you can be a good branch in good standing, but you're not hardworking. And therefore, all the hardworking branches, which received 10% and above, will go to the NPA. And then they should have 100 members in good standing and all of that. And they must try 2 times if they fail the first time. To have a BGA or BPA where you elect a delegate, if you fail the first attempt, you must succeed on the second attempt. Why? A hard-working branch can't fail to convene a coordinating meeting to elect a delegate. If it is a legitimate membership, if it is a hard-working branch, it means there is an existing leadership there. That's why we're putting all kinds of criteria to ensure that we've got genuine delegates to the conference of the EFF, because conferences are a point of infiltration. The infiltrators perform very well when you go to the conference. So you ought to put mechanisms in place to make sure that you've got the best at our conference. So our conference is going to be a leadership forum. It's going to be a conference of the best of the EFF in the whole of South Africa, who would have met the difficult test and went through the eye of a needle.
Yeah, speaking of a difficult test, I remember at the last conference you spoke about the need to build a private school in Alex. Remember that?
Yes.
And you had said to the delegates, if we don't do that and we fail to do that in the next 5 years.
Family, I've just listened to Julius Malema answering the questions from Clement. Clement is a guy who always asks very serious questions, and he goes deep into the question, and he doesn't joke when he he give you some kind of interview because he will turn you upside down. But he was faced with a mountain in front of him because this kind of Julius Malema, I remember him being interviewed by the BBC, and he proved to be on top. He even showed that BBC that you guys, you just come here, you don't know, you don't even do your own research in everything that you do. But Clement, being Clement, he really tried hard, but Julius Malema was on top because when you look at the way he was answering the question, he was not giving any space that Clement could go on and keep on asking the same, like he does with a lot of people. Because Clement, when he asks you a question, he wants to get the answer. But Malema, the way he was answering the questions to Clement, he was very brilliant, and he was answering it in full and leaving no stone unturned that Clement can start capitalizing on that. Because the more, it's like you are in court and you are being asked by a defense lawyer, ask you some kind of question, then you start to talk too much. You're opening a can of worms. The way Malema opens up, he opens up and always make sure whatever he opens up, he makes sure that he leave everything clear, that you cannot get a chance of coming back and asking the same question. So Julius Malema, the way he answered Clement, because I had to take my time. I know how Clement is. Clement can ask you until you feel like I want to leave the seat. The seat is too hot, because he's a good articulator of questions. And when he asks you, he makes a very follow-up question that will make you feel like this guy is out for me, when he's not out for you, but he's trying to make everybody understand. But Malema, the way he was answering questions, he was giving no space for Clement to keep going on and going on and going on. I like the way Clement does his work, and he's a very good guy who questions a lot of politicians. Because Malema is a very seasoned politician, he was on top of the game and he answered everything fully and correctly to show that he's a seasoned politician. What do you think about the way Malema answered the questions as he was being questioned by Clement, knowing Clement that Clement is not a joke when it comes to this? I always like to listen to Clement's programs, because when he tries to, even Balula will never answer questions like Malema answered question, because every time Balula tries to go to interview with Clement will crack Balula to zero, because the way Malema answers questions, he makes sure that he answers you fully and you don't have to come again and say, oh, how about this, how about this? He answered all the questions. What do you think about the way Malema answered the question to the nation? Just drop your own comment respectfully, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Ngiyathanda nonke ngothando lukaLove. Ngithi kini bantu bakithi noma izindlu zodaka lapha kusekhaya. Bravo, bravo family.